So you should do that. Wonderful. So today we're going to be talking about early alerts specifically and going over kind of how to use the tool, but also some best practices as well as some of the updates that are happening this fall related to the early alert process for our campus. In short, MU Connect and this early alert tool is really just a way to communicate not only with students about their progress in courses, but also for instructors to communicate with advisors and other support folks about connecting students with resources. And then those support resources being able to kind of close the loop back to instructors as well to let them know what might be happening or how their students may be getting that support. So it really is intended as a communication tool across all of our campus and throughout the different places where we sit. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to jump in and do some how-tos and best practices, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thanks, Rachel. So Sam's going to be running point on all of the tech so that I can focus on talking, right? Some people can walk and chew gum at the same time. Not all of us have all the great skills that Sam does. So huge shout out to her for letting me focus my lizard brain on a one-track mind. So we're going to go through some tips and tricks, as Rachel said. So we'll walk through all the key aspects of early alert. I'll do some of the pieces, and then Sam will do some of the pieces. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A, including we have some fabulous early alert experts here who are going to work as our sounding board, our panel, so that they can all jump in and say, yes, here's the way that I do X, Y, and Z, so that we can all learn from their fabulous experience and success as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into it. We have 3 ways to raise early alerts, as many of you know. If you already knew, here's a friendly reminder, right? And if you didn't know, well, gosh, what a great time to learn something new here at the outset of the semester. So in MU Connect, when you first log in, you open that hamburger button, you'll see a few tabs. The first My Students tab that you'll see on the left of the slide, that will be the best place to raise flags and kudos, or as your needs may be, referrals or even to-dos manually. You can use this at any point in the semester. You simply check the box next to the relevant student's name and click add flag or add referral, add kudos, and we'll go through some of that in more detail. You can also check the top box and go through all of your students together. So whatever that connection is or whatever filters you've applied will let you select all of those students so that you could even raise the same kudos on everyone as your needs may be. The Zoom In tab there in the middle, and we'll show you this in real time as well. So if that font size seems a little small, that's okay. You don't need new glasses. Well, you might, but this will not be the proof that you need new glasses, right? That Zoom In tab, this imports from the Canvas gradebook, however instructors have set up their course shells. So if you have multiple sections that you've combined into one larger Canvas shell, this will reflect that so that you have some uniformity in your processes across platforms. And what's really neat about that is that you can set grade cutoffs. Maybe you have a course section with 200 students. Well, you certainly don't want to go through all of them one by one. That would take an inordinate amount of time. But you can say, you know what? I want to give kudos to anybody who got a 95% or above on the most recent exam. You can do that just a couple easy clicks, or you say, I need to raise a flag on everyone who got, I don't know, let's say a 50% or below on that same exam. You can do all of that just by setting thresholds and then moving on from there. So that'll be a big time saver, especially for large courses. And then the progress surveys, we have those in week 4 and week 8 for everyone across campus. Some of the units are doing some other cool things. We also see courses that are only in the second 8 weeks now have progress surveys. So If it works for you to use this as a time to go through and say, yes, I've got a small enough class size, say 20 students, and you can click through each of them one by one, fabulous. But if you still have, say, that section with 200 students and you don't want to go through them one by one, you don't have to use the survey. You can then go to Zoom in and raise flags in whichever way works best for you. But what's really neat then is that you have a reminder. Oh gosh, yeah, it's probably about time to give feedback. Week 4 to 5 is when the first one's open, and then weeks 8 to 9 for the second one. This is about the time many classes have their first test and then their midterm. But what's great about Early Alert is it's choose your own adventure. Right. So not only do you have these 3 different options for how to raise flags and kudos, but maybe your course has an exam in week 6. Then you know what? You don't necessarily need to use that progress survey if you've been waiting for those exam scores. You can go in and you can raise those items at any point in the semester in whichever way works best for you and your own workflow. And so just a quick reminder here on what these core academic flags are. You'll see there, item type, these are flags, right, as you got from the title of the slide, and the names and definitions, these are fairly self-explanatory, right? An attendance concern is used when you have an attendance concern, right? We don't mean for this to be facetious in the definition, but rather to offer the most flexibility possible. If you have a course, it's a 1,000 level course that meets 5 days a week, your definition of an attendance concern may be different than a 4,000 level course that meets 1 day per week, right? So we want to make sure that instructors have as much flexibility as possible. So whatever an attendance concern means to you for your own course. And then what's great is when you raise that flag, you can add comments. Not only can you add comments, but you should add comments where you can say, hey, Timmy, haven't seen you the last 3 classes. As a reminder, here's the attendance policy from the syllabus. So not only does that student have the reminder, but then that note, whoever is working with that student, maybe the student's advisor in preparation of an advising meeting, has looked through the student folder and they can see that and use that information to inform their conversation with Timmy. Poor little Timmy. It's always my go-to name for a student in trouble. Timmy is not automatically a bad student, right? It's just my go-to. So to all of the Timmys in the world, I do apologize. That is not targeted at you. We also have a new tier system with these different flags. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me go through the other ones. Sam's going to keep me honest here, and I appreciate that. So those flags are for your various concerns. And then the kudos here, these are various ways to give your students a digital high five. They're all fairly similar, but with slightly different valences. The keep up the good work kudos is on all of the progress surveys, but all 3 of those options are available for you to raise either through Zoom in or manually at any point in the semester, depending on the specific type of feedback that you want to give to the student. And those 2 academic referrals, one that goes to the Learning Center, one that goes to the Writing Center, also available at all times of the semester, and both of those are on progress surveys. And here we go. Sam kept me honest, just like I promised. We have implemented as a campus a new tier system. This is new this semester. So if you're saying, well, this doesn't look familiar, that's okay, right? We're all here to learn and grow. The tier system incorporates lots of feedback from many, many users across campus, as well as what we've observed in common practice and a lot of data analysis. And so the tier 1 system, these are now informational flags. And so from that list earlier, you'll see attendance concern, missing assignment, and participation concern. So once those flags get raised, the student does still receive an automatic email that offers them some encouragement, gives them recommendations for different resources on how to improve their performance. But then we're not going to see separate dedicated outreach for those flags. They should continue to inform conversations. And certainly if the instructor says, you know what, that missing assignment is not missing anymore, they can and should go in, clear out that flag, make sure that the rest of campus, anyone connected to that student, has that note, has the most current information. And then tier 2, these ones are a bit more urgent. We see higher impacts on retention. So the low exam score, the poor class performance, and from the new student check-in, launching soon, watch those inboxes, the academic concern from there. We now have various support units who will lead all of the outreach for those flags. And they have a system that we've set up so that we won't see duplication of efforts, right? So the athletes will have some outreach from athletics and then down through the list. So TRIO students will hear from TRIO unless they're athletes, and then they're covered by athletics, so that everybody's working in tandem. Students are getting that outreach and those resources as quickly as possible, but without duplication, so that they're not seeing 2 or 3 or 4 emails all about the same topic. And tier 3, these are urgent flags. These have the highest impact on student retention. And we've also seen a lot of just fair, I suppose, just assessment, right? A student getting in danger of failing. We all know that that means, gosh, the student could really use a hand right now. And here's where we are seeing our academic advisors and the AU support systems taking point, so that they have outreach for those and can connect students to resources in their way.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about raising a flag and then kind of the tier system of who does the outreach, but we also wanted to highlight the general flag outreach process. So this takes you through all of the steps that occurs from when a flag is raised to when a flag is cleared. So the first step is that an instructor identifies a concern. And so these are the flags that Chris highlighted, such as the low exam score or in danger of failing. From there, that raises a flag in MU Connect, and then those who are performing outreach for students are notified that that flag has been raised. Then the outreach cycle occurs. So the student receives that automated email. So if there's an attendance concern flag, they received an automated email with resources that might be helpful to help address any concerns they might be facing. And then the academic units and then the support centers like the Learning Center, TRIO, depending on the flag that is raised, will begin their outreach protocols. So maybe that is email. We also have services that are calling students directly. And so outreach will be recorded in MU Connect. And so once the outreach cycle ends, the flag is cleared, and then the reason is indicated after the outreach cycle ends. So we'll touch a little bit more on this later, but once the outreach protocol that the unit decides on has finished, the flag will be cleared. And then a feature that we want to highlight is that you can close the loop. So if an instructor raises a flag, when you go to clear the flag, you can write comments about what you talked about with the student, and that will also be highlighted a bit later as well. And so as we talked about, there are closure reasons. So we have completed, no reply from student, administrative, mistake, and partially completed. So completed concerns are those where contact was made with a student and a plan of action was made or the concern was addressed. The no reply from student is that there have been attempts made to contact the student, but you haven't heard anything back from the student about potentially meeting or that the concern was addressed. Administrative is not typically used, so we kind of ignore this reason, but it's typically when the student's enrollment in the course is no longer active. The mistake closure reason is when a flag was raised by mistake. So maybe it was for a different student, or for the new student check-in, for example, maybe they put the wrong answer in and they maybe got the scale backwards. So that would be a mistake closure reason. And finally, partially completed is when there was contact made with a student, but there was no plan of action that was made. So maybe you talked about meeting with the student, but a meeting never occurred. So you didn't have that chance to talk directly with a student.
So now we're going to walk you through some of that in real time, so we can tell you just a couple more tricks of the trade as we go, and then we'll turn it over to our panelists to offer their insights, and then have all of you ask whatever pressing or even non-pressing questions you may have. So as you'll see, Sam has impersonated my profile. When you log in, it will not say you are currently logged in as Christopher Dobbs. Identity theft is not a joke, but you know, I've given Sam permission here, so that part is okay. As you'll see, we're in the My Students tab. It's highlighted there in that sort of salmon color up in the top row of tabs. And we can go ahead and raise a flag, let's say just on Sean Hunter there. If you look through this course list, you may recognize a few names from television shows of yesteryear, but we're just going to pick this first one, sure, Sean Hunter. And then you'll watch Sam click plus flag. It's just a little green plus button, and we're going to add a flag. Here, I don't know, same dealer's choice. You can pick whichever flag makes you happy. Perfect. So low exam score, she's going to select our course context. This will make sure that you have that connection to the student. Here it's our development course that we use, well, for workshops just like this one. And there's always going to be a default comment included relevant to that particular flag. You can use that comment. You can add extra details onto the end of it. You can delete it entirely and add solely your own comment. But we want to make sure that there's always something available for the student that you can then personalize as you need. So she'll go ahead and hit save, and then we'll see here towards the bottom of the screen, it's going to process, and then poof, tracking item raised successfully. We will get confirmation that that worked. If we hop into the tracking tab, the important difference here is that My Students filters all of your students, and it's on an individual user basis. The tracking tab, this is by item and filters according to an item basis. So you'll see Sean Hunter there is first on the list with that low exam score that we just raised. In fact, if we open up Sean's student folder just by clicking on his name, we'll see that there's a tracking option about halfway down the list on the left. And that will show all of the different tracking items that have been raised on the student that whatever user is able to see. So any instructor will see all of their own flags, all of their own kudos that they've raised on the student, but you won't necessarily be able to see every flag or every kudos. It's all based on your specific role and relationship with the student. Advisors will be able to see things from all the courses because they need that more holistic view in order to do their job. But you'll notice that there are these little plus signs on the left-hand side. So if we click one, we can see some extra information here in what's called the journal, where we have a raised comment, so that when, say, the Learning Center is reaching out based on that low exam score flag, now the Learning Center can say, oh gosh, here's the information that Amy very helpfully gave us, right? The student had X, Y, or Z concern or issue, and now we can tailor our outreach and our conversation with that student a little bit more. And then as outreach is made, everyone will add comments directly on that item. So you'll see in that journal a full list of what's happened with that flag all the way through, raising, additional comments, outreach notes, and then when it is closed, you'll see that as well, all of it time-stamped and listed by person. Perfect. And then if we go to zoom in, just one more to the right, you'll see that we already have, if it loads, it may not load, apologies, but this will bring in your course list, and oh, there they are. Students were just a little shy. I guess it's just week 3. That's okay. And then in the second row of tabs, you'll see one with a gear second from the right called Setup Section. And so if Sam clicks on that, you'll see I've gone ahead and just set up which grades to display, which should be active for establishing your filters. This is one of the most powerful tools in the early alert tool belt. And so you'll see I've said any student with a grade that's 65% or lower, I'm defining as a poor performance. Anything 90% or above, well, gosh, that's awesome. That's good. Anything in the middle is just okay. And then here on the right, you'll see those same notifications, good, okay, poor. So Sam, you can go ahead and just click good. And she'll click go. And we will see, well, here are the students that, in this case, it's set up as final grade, but that could be exam, that could be homework score overall, that could be writing project number 6, right? Whatever is appropriate for the instructor's course. And I can go ahead and click select all and say, kudos to all of you students, right? You all got what I'm calling good in my good threshold. Yeah, outstanding academic performance. We'll select our course just to make sure that goes through. And then the comment, again, there's a default comment, but I can also say, gosh, way to go, or you're the best, or you did an outstanding job on that assignment, whatever's appropriate. And when we click save, we'll go ahead and raise those items for us. And we get their confirmation that we've had something raised. And what's really neat is when there's a progress survey active, you'll see all the way at the right, that progress surveys tab, that has a 1 right next to it because I have 1 progress survey active right now. And it is in fact for these same students. A really helpful note when doing progress surveys, as well as at other times, but it perhaps becomes most applicable during the progress surveys, is for any sort of flag, we're really hoping to see the most applicable flag of the highest tier or of the highest urgency, not necessarily every applicable flag. So if a student isn't coming to class and they're missing assignments and they failed an exam, and so now they're in danger of failing, we don't need an attendance concern flag, a missing assignment flag, a low exam score flag, and an in danger of failing flag. Why? Because that'll trigger 4 separate emails to the student. And that's just hurtful, right? The student's already not doing well. We don't want to kick them when they're down and send 4 separate emails that all say, hey, gosh, have you noticed that you're really not achieving what you want to in this course? It also helps us streamline the system. If instead we say 1 flag, in this case, in danger of failing, that'll be the highest tiered flag. And then when Sam checks that box on any of the students, we see the same default comment, but that's where then you can make sure to write, hey, in this case, Sean, you're in danger of failing this class because your attendance is not meeting the specifications in the syllabus and you're missing some assignments and the last exam didn't go so well for you, whatever the case may be, so that we're really just sending 1 notification out. Everything is combined into 1 place, so it's easier across campus for everyone to get to that student quickly and give them whatever resources they need. Okay, and with that, Sam, anything else you want to hop in and say?
Sure. So in that tracking tab, just kind of going back, You'll see those kudos that we raised from the Zoom in tab, but we also just wanted to highlight that there is a way to bulk add comments and bulk clear tracking items as well. So if we wanted to clear Sean's flag, or if we wanted to make a comment on Sean's flag, and I'll just use a Truman referral. If we want to make a comment, we can select as many students as we would like. So we can select multiple students and then click on comment. So for example, if you send an email to 15 students, what you could do is click on comment and put a subject of email sent or outreach, how many outreaches that is. So maybe it's outreach 1. And then the note could be that I emailed the student on this day, provided resources. And then once you click on submit, that will be attached to that tracking item. So as we saw with Sean, for example, when we go in the tracking tab, any comments that we make will all go under that journal section. So Chris made some comments on an attendance concern flag. And so as you can see, that subject line was MU Connect Outreach 1, and the note was emailed Sean with resources. So you can do this for multiple students at once. That way you don't have to go in one by one. And then the same thing, you can also resolve multiple tracking items at once. So if you were resolving some low exam scores, what you could do is you could select the student and click on resolve. So I'm going to resolve that. And so here are those closure reasons that we talked about earlier. And so here you can add a comment. So if it was a no reply from the student, you could say that I emailed and called the student with no response. And then what you could do is click on submit, and then it would clear multiple flags at once. And just this will help save any time as you're going through and clearing those flags. I think that was everything for me.
Fabulous. Well, we have 6 wonderful panelists, so feel free to unmute yourselves, introduce yourselves. It doesn't make sense for me to introduce you. You know who you are a lot better than I do, right? All the nooks and crannies of your mind. So please feel free to hop in and share your own best practices.
I'll start off. I'm Laura Johnston. I teach in the journalism school, and truly my only good tip is that I made this a habit. I check in on all the flags that are raised every Monday. I teach, I'm a course coordinator for a multi-section class in our school that everyone has to take, and it's typically first-year students. So I have trained my instructors who are adjuncts on how to use the MU Connect system, and really I am just building off their success of using it. But that we just make it a habit, and we use the progress surveys routinely. In our course, we check for like attendance every 4 weeks, and so that's a big thing because it seems to us that poor attendance also triggers lack of turning in your assignments and submitting your work and low test scores, things like that. So we just try really hard to make sure we're tracking that and finding out what's going on with students. Also, I customize almost all my messages to students personally in the courses that I teach, and I let instructors know they can do that as well. I like to be able to address students by name in the email that they're going to get and be able to tell them, I know we've talked or I haven't seen you. I will make a true confession. I raised flags in the first week of school because I had a student who missed both classes, and I wasn't sure if they knew it was on their course schedule. So I raised flags for attendance concerns in the first week and cleared them when they showed up for class in week 2. So this system does work.
I'll piggyback off of Laura. My name is Amy Simons, and I'm seeing so many familiar names and faces here. I also am a faculty member in the School of Journalism. I also coordinate one of our 1000 level courses, which is a multi-section course required of all students, the one that comes in the sequence after Laura's. But I also am the professor who teaches J1000, which means to most of you, my name and face should be pretty familiar too, because I am a prolific user of flags. And I'll tell you, one of the experiences I've had in teaching a service course to other classes or to other students and other AUs on campus is how differently each of the different units responds to flags. And how there have been some units that I have found just kind of do a bulk, everybody gets the same copy and paste outreach that may or may not be helpful, because one other thing is I teach 8-week courses. So those copy and paste, like the last day to withdraw from the class is usually not correct when that's just pasted in. So some other kind of concerns that come up there, but I will say there are some things about MU Connect that are super helpful. When I know I have a student who is in crisis, I'm able to go into the network and see who else, like who is their academic advisor. I'm going to pick up the phone when we're talking about a life or death situation. I'm not going to wait, 4 days for someone to pick up that flag. Or if I also see that I have a colleague on campus who I know well, who teaches other courses at that 1000 level. I know, for example, I have a colleague in NEP, nutrition, exercise, and physiology, who we often have the same students. And I'll be like, hey, by the way, you having an issue with this kid, or is it just me? Because I don't see those same 6 flags you do. And I can't guarantee other people are using the system as efficiently. So not only do I see it as an opportunity to reach out to the student and to get kind of your attention as well, but I also see it as a networking tool among other professionals to be able to see if I'm experiencing an anomaly or a pattern. One last thing I would add that I've noticed is an addition perhaps over the summer to MU Connect that I don't know that students particularly like, but I think it's great. Thank you, because Liz Warren can tell you it cuts down on the number of Teams messages I send her, is that there is now a phone number listed for each student as well, because when a student totally goes AWOL on me, or if I'm raising a flag every Monday and their grade is still at 23% in my class, I'm picking up the phone. And I can now do that without being like, hey, Liz, send me a phone number, and to be able to do that as well. So I try to think about ways we can also be using MU Connect as a resource beyond just flags and kudos. And there's a lot of information in there that we can use to connect on a human level between faculty and staff and students that, yes, we need to document everything, but it also takes it out of that virtual space.
Well, that might be a good segue to keep this J-School train flowing. My name is Liz Warren, and I serve as the Director of Student Services in the J-School. And to add to what Laura and Amy have said, I think one of the things that has really helped us in the J-School be successful with flag outreach is, as a team, we also have a flow. So like, as Sam talked about, the progression of a flag, when the team does outreach, we prioritize flags, which are now tier 3 flags, the urgent flags, to be the flags that we respond to the fastest, and that's something that I shared with the course coordinator. So that way, hopefully they knew and could share that with their team members as well, to know like which flags to raise. But we start off with the most urgent flags, and we like to start outreach with phone calls instead of emails. And that we really just started that method during the pandemic because we knew that students were inundated with emails. And so we start all outreach with a phone call and then eventually do follow up via email if we're unable to reach that student. One of the things that we've been trying to continually message in the J-School is that faculty can clear flags as well and can kind of update the flag as well, because students don't always come directly to us or communicate with us. And so even faculty updating a flag if a student responds to email or stops by for office hours helps us interact with the flag as well. But one of the other things that I think we do really well is try to think about what the flag is telling us about the student as a whole. And so we, in addition to having a flag outreach procedure that the entire advising team follows, we also have a process for like determining when it's time to escalate and pull in more campus partners to help us try to connect with a student. And so we're looking at how many other flags does this student have raised in other classes. If they're not necessarily in their first semester, we try to think about academically, how is this student performing? Is it on par with how they've performed in the past? Or is this maybe a deviation to their strong academic performance? And there's probably really something going on that we need to connect with the student on. So we also try to create a puzzle and put it together based on what we know about the student and the system to determine if we need to collaborate more closely with the care team. But I think one of the things that makes our partnership really successful, as Amy and Laura both spoke to, is that their ability to collaborate as faculty with our advising team on that outreach. And so that has been really helpful for us as well. And the other thing that we've done in the J School is added a week 12 progress survey. And so for that, we're trying to catch anybody who might be just not going to pass the class, and we really need to have conversations about withdrawing. And so we try to identify those folks in J School classes with that week 12 progress survey in order to conduct some really specific outreach to them to assist with withdrawing from the class or making some other larger decisions about their academic future at the university.
I'll jump in real quick. So my name is Nick Balser. I'm Director of Advising for the College of Engineering. One thing that I would the few things I would want to push for everybody. So for all advisors on this call, here coming week 4, that we're going to start getting an influx of flags. What I have found that is if you do not like set aside the first 15-30 minutes of your day, you're not going to get to it that day, then you're going to have to do it tomorrow, and then it's just going to continue to get backed up. The purpose of this early alert is to get resources to these students as soon as possible. So delaying that outreach is counterproductive for what we're going for. So I would encourage everybody to block a portion of your day, hopefully first thing in the morning, so you get it done, because this is going to, doing the outreach now is going to save you time down the road when the student is having bigger problems and coming back into you. The other thing is for the faculty that are, and instructors on this call, is to know that advisors are looking at students in a holistic manner, where they're looking at, like, they don't care that they're getting flagged in a particular course. They're caring that they're getting flagged in a course along with what else they're taking. So I know that's a struggle that I face with some faculty over here, is that faculty will say that they're doing their own outreach to students about their own, they're doing it outside of MU Connect. And that's great, but that doesn't help anybody else besides the student and the faculty member. Like, that doesn't paint the picture for me of what else is happening in that student's life. And so I would really encourage your faculty that if they're doing that, to try to let them know how advisors are using the function. And then hopefully they can start adapting their processes into incorporating MU Connect.
I'll jump in next since we're on College of Engineering. Nick. I'm Chip Gubera. I am the Director of Undergraduate Studies for the IT program in engineering. I also teach a full load of courses in media design and technology. And I've been using MU Connect for several years now. And just like Nick said, it's a great way for us instructors to not only talk to the students, especially the ones who are having issues, but also their advisor gets to know, which is really, really wonderful. I teach both face-to-face and online. We have an online degree undergraduate program. We're the only one in the College of Engineering. And online students are really hard to reach. It's really difficult. They're really easy to, it's called ghosting the class, where they just quit showing up. And MU Connect is a great way to reach out to those students, like, hey, what's going on? Especially in those asynchronous online courses, which is what we have through Mizzou Online. And once again, it gets all eyes on the situation: the student, the instructor, obviously, who's raising the flag, and the advisor. We work very closely with our advisor, Sandra Brown, here in the IT program, because we have a very small number of faculty for the amount of students that we have. So we really depend upon Sandra for the help. And if she doesn't know, because the individual instructors are simply reaching out to the student, then Sandra can't step in and help. So I've been a big proponent of MU Connect for a long time. You know, I'm trying to get faculty to use it more often. I know a lot of us in Director of Undergraduate Studies at Engineering are trying to do that. And we've had some pretty good success with some newer faculty, you know. So definitely I would advise everyone to get the faculty to, at the very least, just do those progress surveys. Thank you.
Well, I'll bring up the rear with the panelist comments. I'm Lindsay Haglund. I'm a senior advisor in health professions. I've actually been with MU Connect from the beginning. I remember going to the presentations when they were shopping around for different early alert systems. And it has evolved a lot, and it's gotten a lot more dynamic, I guess is the word that I would use. I would reiterate what everybody else has said. We are careful to use naming conventions when we add comments to raised flags. So HPU email outreach, HPU phone outreach, or outreach attempt number 1 or number 2, so that in that subject line, it's clear what was attempted. I would also say that, again, kind of bringing up the rear here, I would like to offer my own kudos to the MU Connect support email address and team behind that in answering questions, because Sam chimed in with the batch comment and bulk clearing the batch resolve, and that may have been me asking her how we could do that. I'm sure sometimes they wish we would go to the website and read through the different materials rather than just asking, but they have been wonderfully helpful every time I've needed to learn something or be directed to a resource, or even to see something escalated to Starfish as an update or an improvement to the program. So I use them as well. That would be my piece of advice, would be to definitely go to MU Connect support and ask those questions, look for that help.
Well, I appreciate our panelists' comments. Thank you. And thank you for the shout out, Lindsay. I agree. Sam and Chris do a great job responding to those requests, and happy to be partners and folks as they're looking to streamline, improve processes, any of the things, or run into challenges that we want to help you resolve. So I guess at this point, we'll open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions about the early alert or the process, or comments, thoughts. Chris, Sam, anything to add?
Well, since Lindsay gave us the excellent reminder, we do have a website. It is cleverly hidden in the URL muconnect.missouri.edu, right? So if you need to go on an Easter egg hunt, you know, now you have the best tip and trick. We do have various sections on the website, as I know many folks on this call know, including an early alert section. So of course, in other workshops, we'll privilege some of the other sections, but since this is an early alert workshop, there you go. You can get to it through either the tab labeled for instructors or the tab labeled for advisors and staff. They'll both take you to the same place. And there's a whole suite of resources on there. There are guides, they have pictures, there are arrows and lines and circles and all sorts of things. There are also some instructional videos to walk you through various processes step by step. And if you do get stuck or you just want to stay in touch, you can always reach out to us. Any of us would be happy to chat with you, or you can go to our support account that Lindsay also mentioned. So again, tricky naming, MU Connect support at missouri.edu is that email address that's also on the website. And then whichever one of us can get to it first, will reach out to you. We also have some fabulous student employees in our office. So big shout out to Don Lottie and to Annie as well. They help keep the wheels on the bus moving. Good, Sam?
Amy, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, I wanted to thank Liz for talking for a second about how the School of Journalism approaches flags. And I don't know if any of the other faculty members who are here are also teaching students across units, or even if there have been a lot of conversations among Liz's other counterparts and other directors of undergraduate advising, but could maybe some of the other units talk about what your approaches or your responses are, since they aren't consistent, to just kind of learn from each other a little bit, or to better help me understand too how or when they're being jumped in on, or who's responsible for some of those, the outreach at different phases.
Yeah, I'll speak for engineering advising anyway. So we do outreach for more than just the tier 3 flags. So we're pretty much doing them from all academic flags. And so, for example, I think the attendance concern was kind of addressed earlier. Like, I think that's one of the bigger flags. And so, like, if we can get ahead of that one, I mean, because that seems like an easy pickings. Like, if the student's not going to class, they're going to start struggling further down the line to have more severe flags that do fall in tier 2 or 3. So we reach out to all academic, and essentially my philosophy is, like, if I have something to add to the student, then I will do an outreach. So, for example, like if it's like SAP appeals, I'm not going to do an outreach to that because my email is going to say the same thing that financial aid sent to them. So, but like there's so many, I don't see faculty editing their flag message very often, and usually just sending the standard template. And so they're not talking about office hours, and they're definitely not including tutoring resources. And engineering has their own tutoring sessions available. And so there's a lot of times these classes do have resources available that aren't on the Learning Center's page. So we can contribute to almost all of the flags that are academic. So we try to reach out to as many as we can. And that's why I'm so adamant about devoting time in the morning to do them all, because otherwise they get back up and we get a lot. So that's how engineering advising would be working it.
Hi, Amy. In arts and science, I was typing this because I have to go to class in a minute, but I'll just say it because it's faster. We ask advisors to reach out to students who are flagged for in danger of failing or in danger of being dropped flags, and note the outreach on the flag. And I think the outreach has been happening fairly consistently. I think that the notation on the flag sometimes is what we may need to work on in terms of being consistent. It may be helpful to know too that we have a mixed model of advising. So we have primary role advisors and faculty advisors. So I think sometimes we could work a little bit more on consistency, and we do try to do that with our students who have 6 academic flags. So we do coordinate an outreach at the dean's office level for those students, and we do call students who are first-time college, first semester students, and they've been flagged 6 times by the 4-week survey. Those are students we feel like really probably need a phone call. So that's our process.
So Amy, I would say in health professions, we're working on it. The outreach almost always happens on the tier 3 flags. The commenting doesn't, just like Bruce said. That's the #1 problem. As an instructor, I guess I would provide the reassurance that there probably is outreach happening, especially if it's a tier 3 flag. It's just that you're not looped in on it. That's something we are definitely going to meet about with the new flag management matrix and the closure responsibilities that advisors are going to have. So I think that's going to improve in terms of consistency and hopefully across AUs. And I don't want to open up something entirely different, but that flag management matrix, I know a lot of work went into that. And I do hope that it's going to provide some consistency for across all the AUs on that front. It's just adding the comment. It's the fact that we have to run with the different systems. We have to email them or we have to call them, and then we have to remember to go into the system and make the comment, and shiny things happen in the meantime. So.
Good. Other thoughts, comments? Anybody have anything else they need to share, or another question? Also, Amy, thank you for that question. That was wonderful to have that cross-campus discussion.
Hi, my name is Nadia. I work with the Transfer Center. I have a question about the frequency of clearing the flags that departments do attempt to do, and how many times a week would you check those flags?
Nadia, when it comes to clearing flags, engineering will only do it if, depending on the student's action. So we essentially will clear a flag once a student has the knowledge that they have, once we give them the information that we feel they need for the flag, and they acknowledge it. So if we send it out saying, hey, you got a flag for this class, here's tutoring sessions for this class, if they respond to us and say, that's great, I've already started going to tutoring, and we know that they're good for what, like, they have a knowledge that they have this issue, they have knowledge that a way to possibly solve it. At that point, we'd be lowering the flag. We would not just be lowering them, just simply doing the outreach. And so we have to have the student's response of somehow, some sort of acknowledgement.
And as far as clearing, every office is going to need to negotiate its own workflow, right? And so with this new flag management matrix and the implementation of a tier system, that is all designed to reduce some of the lift, right? Certainly everybody's doing awesome things, but capacity is the age-old problem. And so the hope is that this tier system, well, and the numbers say it should work, right? But we all know theory and practice don't always align, right? But the hope is that we'll actually see a decrease in the amount of capacity issues. We can't say we're going to fix everything with one policy change, right? But that we'll see some more time given back to the folks who are doing this outreach, so that they can then shift their processes in whatever ways are going to be more effective and more efficient for them. So on that matrix, we have a sort of guideline of what we hope to see as far as frequency of outreach. We know that that's going to vary, especially early registration time, right? There are going to be ebbs and flows, but for those tier 3 urgent flags, somewhere around that every 3 days mark, just making sure that a student can't go, say, an entire week where their instructors just said, you are in danger of failing this course. And now it's been an entire week before they even hear about any resources. For tier 2, it's going to be maybe a little bit longer, but again, ebbs and flows. If it's possible for somebody, as Nick said, to chart out 15 minutes every morning, awesome, right? But for the tier 2, maybe not quite as urgent, but somewhere around every 4 or 5 days, faster if possible. But we're also acknowledging that people have many different responsibilities. And then those tier 1 flags, given that we don't have dedicated outreach assigned for those, our office is actually going to clear those out on a monthly basis. So students will still get an automated email with resources. Of course, folks are still welcome to look at the information, use the information. If they feel so called, reach out based on that information. But then there won't be a need to clear those out unless that's something that folks really want to do. Because we're going to take care of that on a monthly basis to make sure that the lists of tracking items don't get bogged down, and so that we don't encroach on that threshold for students with 6 active academic flags.
Well, I think we're at time, but I appreciate the conversation. I'm glad everyone was here, and I'm really pleased with the dialogue back and forth about some of the different ways that academic units are responding, and some of the pros and best practices that folks shared. So thank you for being with us this morning. We will share this out on our website at some point. So feel free to direct colleagues that may have missed this to that, and when we share that out. So again, thank you, and have a good rest of your day.